From broken-hearted polygamist wife to undisputed financial force, Christine Brown's life, after leaving Kody, is more dramatic than you can imagine. Ditch the tears, we're talking serious business maneuvers. Prepare yourself for an inside look at how this Sister Wives reality star rebooted her life and built an empire that's making waves. This is not a tale of breakup. This is a rebuild manual. They say money doesn't buy happiness, but for Christine Brown, being financially free was happiness. Behind the cameras, behind the split, behind the world knowing her name, Christine wasn't the millionaire ex-wife the headlines trumpet today. She was a woman caught in a lifestyle where emotional allegiance came at the expense of independence. Her life in those days centered around one word: family. And that family, over which Kody Brown presided, operated like an empire with Kody as the king and the wives bearing the burden. Christine's work was emotional, domestic, maternal, but not often financial. At least, so the world was led to believe. She cooked, raised children, smiled for cameras, but behind the smile was a woman quietly weighing what freedom would eventually cost her. And if you thought that was astounding, just wait and hear what she was already up to before TLC ever rang her doorbell. Because here's the thing, Christine wasn't wholly reliant. Even prior to the show, she had little moments of independence. Little ventures, quiet hustles, the type of efforts that hardly made it to the headlines, but presaged something greater. Selling homemade crafts, running local community events, even tiny-scale network marketing stints that made her experience just a glimpse of what making money on her own felt like. Those early attempts may have been small, but they sprouted a seed. The notion that someday she could exist on her own, not as the third wife of Kody, but as Christine Brown, a woman named for herself, on her own path, with her own bank account. She didn't realize it at the time, but those stealth hustles were preparation for something much bigger. The day she'd enter the spotlight no longer as a sidekick, but as the headliner. And that day, it began the day she understood that appearing on TLC wasn't simply exposure. It was leverage, because while millions tuned into Sister Wives for the drama, Christine had an eye on something else: the numbers. Followers growing, merch sales are through the roof, brand deals in the works. TLC provided her a platform, but Christine took it to a launch pad. But how did she really leverage TV stardom into actual fortune? And what unseen choices made her transition from reality star to entrepreneur? Well, that's where her tale turns dramatic. Christine had an understanding at an early stage that fame would diminish, but a brand, a personal brand, one that was genuine and real, would last for all time. As soon as she entered the world of Sister Wives, she didn't merely become just another face in a controversial family, she became a symbol. Millions watched her as the warm, down-to-earth one. The family's heart, the one who smiled amidst chaos. And while the world was observing her loyalty, Christine was observing something else quietly: opportunity. TLC gave her a platform that most people could only wish for. Every show, every revelation, every domestic spat was free promotion for her personality as well. People weren't watching for polygamy drama. They were relating to her. The nice woman, the good mother, the one who was always genuine. That is what formed the basis of her empire before she even understood it. She came to realize that every second of screen time was an opportunity to be trusted. And trust, in the modern era, is a commodity. And when the show took off, Christine didn't squander it. She began popping up more and more online, initially in small bits, just snapshots of family life or teeny-tiny peeks at her life beyond the show. Gradually, deliberately, she began distinguishing between Christine the wife and Christine the woman. And then social media. Instagram, TikTok. Sites where she could finally talk without filters, without edit, without someone else's voice covering over hers. Fans tuned in immediately. Her honesty was compelling. The smile, the soothing voice, the manner in which she brushed off suffering rather than concealing it. It wasn't flawless, it was genuine. And people craved more of it. Before long, corporations took notice. Small deals became legitimate deals. Lifestyle items, family brands, accessible household items, all precisely fitting with her brand. She was not selling. She was relating. And if you believe this was happenstance, think again. Christine had it all planned out. Each caption, each post, each cameo constructed one cohesive message. She was no longer the woman behind left. She was the woman on the move. Then came the merch. Fans began purchasing not only because they adored Christine, but because they believed in her. And that belief generated revenue. Her Cooking with Just Christine feature lent her brand a face, a voice, a beat that was comforting and familiar. It was Christine, raw and unfiltered, at last at the helm. But this was just the start, because while the public viewed a woman recovering, Christine was actually doing something much more calculated, turning sympathy into devotion, and devotion into commerce. She wasn't merely weathering the storm of a shattered marriage. She was constructing a bridge to the next phase of life. And that bridge was lined with each fan, each click, each degree of trust she'd established. And if you thought she let up there, you're mistaken. What happened next would totally alter the way the world perceived Christine Brown, not as a reality TV star, but as an entrepreneur with her own empire. Where Christine finally broke free from Kody's shadow. She didn't walk away from a relationship. She strode into her power. The cameras had portrayed her as a broken-hearted wife beginning anew, but in the shadows she was building something far greater, an actual concrete empire. Her first big strike was with a name that shocked even loyal followers. LuLaRoe. Something that began as a hobby side business became a significant source of income. Christine did not approach it as a hobby. She approached it as business school. Midnight nights packaging orders, studying marketing stunts, communicating one-on-one with fans who craved more than apparel. They craved a part of her narrative. Within months, she transformed the average direct sales job into a lucrative venture, fueled by her charm and sincerity. She wasn't chasing trends. She was creating trust. Every time she went live, Christine didn't sell products. She sold confidence. She showed women who felt stuck that starting over wasn't just possible. It could be profitable. And that message resonated far deeper than any scripted reality TV moment ever could. But LuLaRoe had merely ignited the fuse. It was what followed that propelled her from business owner to legend. Christine's cooking segments, Cooking with Just Christine, broke out as a huge hit. She was no longer part of a family sketch anymore. She was the program. Warm, witty, accessible, and completely in her milieu, Christine was not only showing people how to cook set, she was offering freedom on a plate. The network noticed the reaction. The viewers noticed the happiness. And for the first time, Christine was making money off of her own name, not off of her affiliation with Kody or the Sister Wives franchise. Each episode was like a celebration of autonomy. And behind the scenes, that autonomy was paying off in real cash. Brand collaborations, cookbook opportunities, paid speaking engagements, and digital content sponsorships. But Christine's ultimate power move was possibly the one that went unnoticed by the few: real estate. When she left Kody, she made unapologetic real estate choices, opting for stability and good investment strategy over chaos and emotional whim. A new Utah home became more than a new beginning. It became a defining moment of mastery. It wasn't about extravagance. It was about legacy. And if you think her success was handed to her, think again. Every dollar earned, every deal signed, every brand partnership built was the result of years of resilience and reinvention. She turned heartbreak into hustle and reality TV into real assets. But even when she was at her best, Christine remained humble. Her social media updates weren't about fame or fortune. They were about appreciation. The fan base could sense it. She wasn't trying to prove herself anymore. She was just living, flourishing, and encouraging thousands who had seen her weep now observe her dominion. But just when the world was convinced that Christine had reached her zenith, something strange occurred. Her narrative changed again, from triumph to purpose. Because what followed wasn't only about riches. It was about purpose. And that's when Christine's true magic started to emerge. As Christine's wealth increased, something profound started taking form. A transformation of identity. The woman once gauging her value by Kody's validation was now defining herself by her mission. Freedom had given her confidence. But now confidence was providing her with clarity. she began choosing her ventures not only for profit, but for passion. Each brand she partnered with, each message she communicated, had a thread: empowerment. She wasn't selling products anymore. She was selling change. When Christine spoke about self-love or independence, it wasn't for opinion. It was about everything she'd battled to be. And viewers could see, her interaction wasn't based on clickbait. It was based on connection. Fans weren't commenting. Fans were confessing. Testimonials from women going, "You made me escape a bad relationship. You taught me it's never too late to begin again." The comments became a movement, and Christine found herself in the middle of something bigger than fame: influence. But not everyone was popping the champagne. Behind the smiles there were murmurs. Gossip about how much money she was actually earning, whether her independence had strained relations with the other wives, and whether Kody wished he'd never released her. Some close sources said Christine's success undermined the established family order. She'd spent years being underestimated, talked down as the homemaker, or the fun one. Suddenly she was the most financially and emotionally secure of them all. And if that wasn't enough to touch hearts, the success of Cooking with Just Christine allegedly opened eyes within the offices at TLC. Certain producers started hinting at spin-off contracts and one-off specials solely centered on her. That was something Kody had never dreamed of. The Sister Wives legacy without him at its center. But Christine wasn't seeking revenge. She didn't need to prove him wrong. Her life was already doing that for her. Rather, she concentrated on her expanding family, her new union, and the serene contentment of stability she had long been without. But beneath the joy, there was one truth: freedom comes at a cost. The freedom she had won came at the expense of not only a man but a world. The sisterhood, the common chaos, the years of known hurt, all left behind. She had given it up for tranquility. And sometimes tranquility is too quiet to bear. And in that silence, everything changed. For because Christine was soon to take her boldest step ever, one that would redefine not only her brand, but the whole story of what it means to break free. But before that new bold chapter started, there was a moment, quiet, raw, and surprisingly human. Christine sat by herself in her new house, surrounded by boxes that read kitchen, kids, and new beginnings. It wasn't a move. It was a rebirth. The cameras were turned off, the makeup was washed away, and the laughter gave way to a soft sort of relief. For the first time in decades, she didn't have to share her house, her husband, or her dreams. And in that quiet, she knew something strong. She had created her new world with her own two hands. Soon after, opportunities began to snowball. Brand collaborations, cookbook sales, lifestyle features, everything she touched seemed to flourish. But unlike many reality stars who burn bright and fast, Christine played the long game. She didn't chase fame. She built trust. She invested time in her followers, responding, sharing, and laughing with them like old friends. That authenticity became her brand's heartbeat. However, the true turning point was when she went into real estate, not as a celebrity promotion, but as an investor. She realized the financial power of ownership as well as emotionally. There were whispers that she'd made discreet yet savvy real estate deals, purchasing and reselling houses in neighborhoods near her family and new husband. It was not gaudy wealth. It was enduring wealth, the kind that was constructed brick by brick, not post by post. But what was so extraordinary about this transformation was how open she was. She never attempted to become someone else. She didn't conceal her wounds or gloss over the fight. And that's why people trusted her. People weren't merely observing a celebrity rebuild. They were observing a woman heal, in public with poise, humor, and resilience. And if you thought that was uplifting, wait until you hear what came next. Because just when Christine seemed to have hit her high point, she did something nobody, not even her most die-hard fans, expected. Something that would show that she wasn't just surviving after Kody. She was redefining what survival even meant. Christine's next step wasn't loud or flashy, but it was earth-shattering. She changed from reality TV participant to author of her own life. All her choices, all her collaborations, had a single aim: to create a life that would be an expression of her values, her autonomy, and her vision. Nobody else was writing this story. Christine was at last the master of the script. She diversified her brand into the spaces that meant the most to her: wellness, lifestyle, and empowerment. Each post, Each video, each outing was strategic. She wanted her followers to notice a woman who had been through heartbreak, family drama, and public criticism, but came out better, wiser, and unapologetically her own self. People were not only inspired by her riches or celebrity, they were drawn to her strength. And then the quietly brilliant stroke of genius, monetizing relatability. Christine did not offer a styled out-of-reach existence. She shared the small triumphs, preparing a meal from scratch, furnishing her house, taking quiet moments with her family. They were micro details, but they made her audience feel as if they were along for the ride. They were not merely observers. They were travel companions on her road to self-sufficiency. The public took notice, and brands took notice. LuLaRoe's success was just the tip of the iceberg. Cookbook book deals, media shows, lifestyle sponsorships, all projects she pursued, solidified her status as both real and impactful. It wasn't happenstance. It was strategy, patience, and persistence. But even as her empire expanded, the old dynamics persisted. Ex-family members, critics, and even loyalists didn't understand her decisions. Some questioned whether her success was bought at the cost of disunity among her former family. Others wondered if her increasing visibility jeopardized Kody's grip on the family story. But Christine didn't care. She knew that genuine independence tends to provoke questions, and had long grown accustomed to basking in her own radiance. And just as the world believed they had her story there, Christine revealed another chapter of her transformation. Something greater than fame, greater than money, and greater than anyone's expectations who had once doubted her. What was next would rebrand not only herself, but the entire concept of reinvention. And if you think that's the payoff, wait, because the biggest shock chapter of Christine's transformation is yet to come. Christine quote, "A to remake wasn't merely a matter of creating wealth or a brand. It was a matter of remembering who she was. Every step she took after she left Kody was calculated, deliberate, and a very personal choice. She had learned the hard way that liberty is only as strong as the decisions that come afterward. And Christine made the right ones." Her online presence became more than just a platform for fans. It was a stage for honesty. She posted struggle along with success, laughter along with solemn introspection. Folks weren't simply observing her cook, travel, or reveal her home. They were seeing a woman claiming her life in the moment, and that openness created an unbreakable bond with viewers. Meanwhile, her entrepreneurial pursuits continued to thrive. LuLaRoe had opened doors, but Christine didn't stop there. Cookbook contracts, lifestyle partnerships, and talk show appearances all were built on a diversified foundation. She wasn't one-trick pony dependent. She was building an empire that would last for decades. Her strategy was to take opportunity and pair it with authenticity, and it paid off. But the change wasn't just external. Christine's personal development reflected her financial achievement. She taught herself to put boundaries in place, to prioritize happiness, and to invest in relationships that nourished her instead of depleting her. The public hardly ever witnessed the times of introspection. The early mornings spent sitting with a coffee, weighing her next step, or the nights spent journaling her aspirations, hoping bigger than anyone thought possible. And if you believe this was simple, don't. Every choice was a risk. Every public action left her exposed. Every endeavor might have ended in failure. Yet Christine kept going, motivated not by competition or vengeance, but by vision. She desired more than achievement. She desired meaning, and as her popularity increased, so did the discussions about her. Fans argued with her decisions, applauded her bravery, and admired her autonomy. Critics criticized her motives, wondering if fame had driven her actions. But Christine remained who she was. She knew that authenticity generates loyalty, and loyalty creates an empire that no rumor or drama could destroy. And just when she had perfected this harmony, Christine prepared to bring her brand to a space no one could have anticipated. A move that would secure her legacy as something more than a reality TV celebrity, but as an icon of reinvention and empowerment. Christine's experience was not simply about money. It was about crafting a life that truly represented her values, her vision, and her autonomy. Each collaboration she undertook, each brand she partnered with, each post she made was meaningful. She knew that influence is not followers or clicks. It's inspiring others to action, to spark change and make a difference that will last beyond the screen. She leaned into relatability like never before. Little things, the way she laughed at herself, the cluttered kitchen counters, the way she stopped to enjoy a moment of peace, made her story real. Fans didn't merely watch Christine Brown. They saw themselves in her. They saw struggle, resilience, and victory reflected in a life that felt real. And what was real, Christine realized, was her most valuable currency. Her businesses grew deliberately. Outside of LuLaRoe, she ventured into media spots, lifestyle partnerships, and cookbook endorsements. Every step solidified her independence without compromising who she was. She wasn't seeking attention, she was establishing trust, and that trust directly converted to engagement, sales, and loyalty. And even as her empire expanded, the emotional stakes were high. Coming out of an extended polygamous marriage entailed lingering pain, family complications, and public judgment. There was criticism to endure, jealousy to battle, and the lingering shadow of her former life to deal with while still striving to move ahead. It wasn't always simple, and some evenings were spent in silence. Moments when the cameras weren't rolling, and she alone understood the total burden of what she had overcome. And if you believe she had it all sorted out by this point, think again. Christine's life was anything but linear. For each step forward there were decisions to be made, dangers to be calculated, and possibilities that could either validate or invalidate her well-planned destination. But Christine had discovered one basic lesson. Independence isn't bestowed. It's constructed, with each choice, each stone weighed and placed. And with every deliberate move, she demonstrated that reinvention isn't merely an option, but an incredibly powerful tool. But that left the question. What would Christine do next? How would she go on to further build her influence, cement her empire, and create her own legacy? The responses were on their way, and they would shock all of those who believed they understood her saga. Already, Christine had evolved from the demure, faithful wife to a woman whose existence commanded notice. But this wasn't for showing Kody, or the world, anything. It was for showing herself. Every decision, every venture, every post was a declaration. She was no longer defined by her past, only by her choices moving forward. Her empire, though, wasn't based on strategy alone. It was based on authenticity. Christine recognized the audience was hungry for connection, not perfection. They wanted to watch her win, fail, laugh, and ponder. That relatability became the foundation of her brand. She proved vulnerability and strength can coexist, and that storytelling and purpose can yield genuine influence. And the numbers did it all. From LuLaRoe profits to cookbook sales and media partners, Christine's finances and personal development went through the roof. And yet she never let success go to her head. She continuously assessed, honed, and rethought her method, continually looking for substance over mere hype. But personal branding and financial freedom were only half the equation. Christine was also a master at emotional independence. She cultivated relationships that raised her up and eliminated those that drained her. She established boundaries where there were none previously, claiming spaces where she could thrive on her own terms. And if you believe that's the last piece of her puzzle, think twice. Because just like Christine had perfected public image, she was secretly staging the next act, one that would not only solidify her place as an independent force to be reckoned with but reframe what it takes to rebuild after a broken heart. Her path was a reminder to everyone that reinvention isn't an instant, it's a journey. And each decision, each step, and each lesson had brought her to this point. But the question that was most compelling was left unsolved. How far would Christine go? And what would she produce next with the power, autonomy, and authority that she had worked so hard to gain? Christine's transformation was not seen in her bank statements or brand sponsorships. It was seen in the way she walked. There was a new confidence in her posture, a steadiness in her voice, and a calmness in her gaze that spoke volumes. She no longer reacted to drama or sought validation from others. Instead, she acted with intention, knowing exactly who she was and what she wanted. Her fans started to see this change themselves. Fans weren't only clapping for her financial success, they were applauding for her emotional development, for how she recovered from adversity, and for the poise with which she stepped into adversity. Every post, every appearance, every interview was a study in how to take back ownership of one's life, regardless of the past. And yet, Christine never allowed momentum to dull her humility. She openly revealed her struggles, the late-night nights alone, the times she questioned if she was doing the right thing, the lingering fears that are attached to entering unknown territory. In doing so, she invited her audience along for the ride in a manner that was intimate and real. People didn't simply observe Christine Brown succeeding, they felt as if they were a part of her change. Business-wise, her strategy remained astounding. Aside from LuLaRoe and Cookbook Enterprises, Christine started investing in long-term partnerships and projects with her personal brand in mind. Everything was carefully considered, every move calculated not only for gains, but for legacy. Her method was calculated, a lesson in converting visibility into lasting influence. But as her empire grew, so did the questions. How much more could she push? How could she balance her authenticity when she was expanding her brand? Would the lessons learned from history still be the guiding force behind her future? Or would the new challenges test the boundaries of her independence? And if you think the story couldn't get any more compelling, Christine was about to take a step that would surprise even her most loyal followers. A move that would redefine the meaning of success and show that her transformation was far from over. Christine's story at this point wasn't just about personal success, it was about influence. She had demonstrated that a woman could walk out of an abusive situation, start over and prosper in her own terms. But power isn't always gauged by followers or financials, it's gauged by impact. And Christine was finally getting to see the complete extent of hers. Her people had become a movement. Women of all kinds contacted her, telling her how Christine's path inspired them to take risks in their own world. She was no longer just a reality TV star, she was a representative of potential. Every sale of one of her cookbooks, every live stream, every social media engagement, reminded them of that bond. Her empire was not just economic, it was cultural. Despite all the triumph, Christine stayed humble. She kept the little human touches that grounded her. An infectious laugh shared over a kitchen gaffe, a private moment with her kids, a real-life observation of previous struggles. These were not scripted. They were genuine slices of life, reminding her audience she was still human, still learning and still growing. And yet, the stakes were always high. Each public step, each alliance, was under scrutiny. Some were suspicious of her motives, others skeptical of her endurance. But Christine had learned that criticism could be borne gracefully. She knew that true empowerment is often accompanied by visibility, and visibility necessarily comes with both praise and judgment. And if you thought she had peaked, think again. Christine was gearing up to take her impact even higher, pursuing options that would carry her legacy well beyond reality television, social media, or even the brand ventures of her present moment. The next chapter was going to be her most ambitious yet, demonstrating that her path of reinvention was anything but over. The actual question now wasn't how far she had traveled, but how far she was willing to travel. How would Christine Brown redefine breaking free, building an empire, and inspiring a generation in the process? Christine had rebuilt her life in ways that few could have imagined. What started out as a tale of heartbreak had become a tale of empowerment, strategy and grit. She had demonstrated that leaving behind a controlling situation did not mean leaving behind uncertainty. It meant leaving behind possibility. Her independence was immeasurable, but the key to her being such a compelling story was the emotional intelligence behind it. Christine was the master of the fragile dance between authenticity and influence. She didn't follow trends or try to be famous for a moment. She built trust, and trust was the beginning of her empire. Every single post, every partnership, every public performance was deliberate, a calculated move in a long game plan to reimagine her identity and her legacy. And yet, Christine's progress was not without stress. There were times of uncertainty, residual shadows of what had been, and the inevitable comparisons with what had been left behind. The world observed closely, some admiring, some in skepticism. But Christine had learned to be attentive, not to the din, but to the path she was creating for herself. Her business interests kept growing. Media partnerships, Lifestyle franchises and business ventures made her a player whose reach extended far beyond the world of reality television. Yet she never lost that down-to-earth quality that originally attracted her viewers. The little human touches that made fans identify, become invested, and get inspired. And if you believe her tale is completely told, think again. Christine Brown's path is just beginning. Each accomplishment gives way to new opportunities, new obstacles, and new means to motivate. The question now is no longer what she has done, but what she will do. How will she keep using her platform, redefining success, and build a legacy that will outlast the limelight? Christine's transformation had reached the level where her past and present blended to form an authentic story. She was no longer only an ex-polygamist wife on a reality show. She had become a template for revamp. Every move she made, every step into the future, held the burden of experience, determination, and aspiration. Her business empire was impressive, yes, but it was the backstory that touched hearts. Christine demonstrated that success is not just wealth, it's about taking back power, redefining identity, and celebrating realness. She had taken adversity and made it a global source of inspiration, affirming that disappointment can be the basis for extraordinary turnaround. Fans and critics alike observed as she forged ahead into new projects with wit and poise. She built out her brand carefully, making decisions that served the vision she saw while being, most importantly, authentic. From cookbook launches to lifestyle partnerships, every move supported the story of a woman who had reclaimed her authenticity and succeeded. However, even at the peak of her autonomy, Christine's tale held a degree of suspense. What new trajectory would she take? Which possibilities would she grasp next? The public was left breathless, engrossed in a journey that seemed to be unfolding, chaotic and infinitely human. And in that chaos is the strength of her tale. Christine Brown not only survived her history, she turned it into a springboard to the future. But the question that is most interestingly left unanswered is what's next? How far will she push to build her empire, her power, and her legacy? The answer is still unfolding, and the world is watching. Christine's story has been a masterclass in transformation. From the quiet, heartbroken wife to a woman commanding her own narrative, she has shown the world that independence isn't given, it's earned. Every challenge she faced, every obstacle she overcame, has been a stepping stone toward a life defined by choice, purpose, and authenticity. Her venture, her brand, and her presence are undeniable. But the thing that makes Christine's story engaging is the humanness to it. The humor, the times of uncertainty, the late nights ruminate over her journey. These are the pieces that make her successes endearing, inspiring, and deeply relatable. Fans identify with her failures, and in doing so, they party with her successes as if her own. Even today, Christine is changing. She's seeking out new possibilities, rebranding herself, and building her power in ways that transcend reality TV. Her path is not one of revenge or vindication. It's one of creating a legacy, one choice at a time, that is true to her values, her strength, and her vision for tomorrow. And if you think that Christine's tale has a tidy conclusion, think again. Christine Brown's makeover is only just beginning. The most compelling question of all, what's next for her? How will she keep using her power, expanding her empire, and inspiring people in ways no one has yet conceived? The answer is still unwinding, and the world is watching, curious to catch the next installment of the remarkable life of Christine Brown.